Well, hello, everyone. Hope everybody is having a wonderful day today. Uh, we're trying to prepare for the storm that's coming our way again, like it was last week. So everybody have a great day. Be safe out there. Um, I was out traveling around in town yesterday, and it was a little crazy. So everybody be safe out there. Let's just talk about what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about basic range repair, what I need to do before having to remove the unit, and then if I do have to remove the unit, what am I going to do? Okay, so basically, what we're learning, what we're looking for today, is how can I diagnose things from the front of the oven. Okay. As always, thank you very much, Encompass, for providing the the platform for us to use to make sure that we're getting training out there. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask as we go along. If you look on the bottom there, there's a box on the right side that says uh, post to customer. Oops, sorry, I got the wrong one here. Comments. So if you look in the comments box, you can just type in and say what you need to ask me, or if you have any questions, or anything you want to put in the comment box, you can put in there. So thank you very much. Once again, this is the rep for Encompass there in South in Georgia. Reggie covers just about every does a little bit everywhere. So here's his YouTube page. So I wanted to plug that. I just wanted to thank everybody and hope everybody is enjoys today's program. Okay. If I'm going to diagnose anything, I really need a meter. Okay. I can't walk in and just assume, or I may think, or however you want to put it. I need a meter, and I need a decent meter. I don't have to have a $900 meter. I can get away with a $25 meter. I mean, I can actually get away with diagnosing a range. I can actually go with a $5 meter that basically checks nothing but ohms and also it checks on voltage. So that's really all that I really have to have for a meter on a range. So just remember that going into it. Okay. I mean, I keep a varied amount of meters. I have an amp meter that will check everything. I also have just a multimeter, and I've got 3 different styles of that just that I've acquired over the years. I've got my $5 meter that I paid $5 at Harbor Freight that I usually keep in my truck just for quick. I carry it in my tool pouch. If it gets wrecked, big deal. I'm out $5. I spend that on a cup of coffee. So speaking of cups of coffee, thank you. There's basic meter reading. Okay. Meters are designed to measure 3 properties. Okay. Found in a working circuit. They are designed to check resistance, voltage, and current flow. Okay. This is why a meter is called a multimeter, because it checks 3 things. Okay. That's just a basic meter. Okay. We're not talking about an amp probe. An amp probe is a little bit different. Okay. They can perform multiple functions and and measure differences, different kinds of voltages and currents, either AC or DC. Okay. The resistance, the option to the opposition to current flow is a component that is measured in units called ohms. Okay. All electrical components or devices have a resistance value. The symbol for ohms is like the M. It reminds me of an upside down horseshoe. Okay. Some examples: inductors, circuit boards, power supplies, resistors, diodes. They all have values that they show. Okay. Voltage, electrical components or potential differences between 2 points, measured in units called volts. Symbol for voltage is V. Okay. So if you look on your meter, it will have most of the meters have a V on the voltage portion of it. Okay. The potential can be either DC, which is direct current, or AC, which is alternating current. Okay. So DC voltages, the easiest one to think about is a car battery. Okay. That's a DC volt. AC voltages is like 120 volt circuit that goes in, that's hanging right there in your outlet that most everybody's alarm clock is plugged into. Okay. Current is the flow of electrons through a conductor that's at a certain rate based on the voltage source provided and the resistance and the flow of the current to the circuit. Okay. Current is measured in amperes or amps. The symbol for current is A. Okay. So that's the A. We've got a V. We've got an A. We have the upside down horseshoe, and that would be our ohms. Okay. Just like voltage, current can be alternating current or direct current based on the source of the voltage through the, from the circuit. Okay. So a light bulb is in your room is an example of that. Okay. When you put the light switch to the on position, you complete the current path from the source, which is 120 volts AC at the fuse box, and through the switch and to the light bulb, and then back to the fuse box, which is the ground. The circuit uses AC current, which is alternating current. Okay. As identified above, it's critical to remove the operating power source from the unit before diagnosing. So if I'm going to check ohms, I need to disconnect the power supply. If I do that, if I turn the ohms the meter to the ohm settings and I check it and it is I haven't unplugged the appliance, you're more than likely going to short your meter out. And then you have to go throw it away and go buy a new one because you just fried the circuits in it. Okay. The most common method is to unplug the unit from the wall outlet or turn off the power at the appliance's power box or the circuit breaker. Okay. If I'm in a kitchen, I had a technician call me the other day and kept having problems with a unit, a refrigerator, kept just going off and would stop. Come to find out, it was on in the kitchen. They had wired everything to a GFCI, and it was with something else on besides just the refrigerator. It would actually blow the circuit. So you never want your refrigerator on a GFCI. Okay, so we're going to talk about resistance, measuring resistance. once the power is removed, you can use the meter's own function and the meter's internal battery to check. Okay. So I need to know about how many ohms I'm supposed to get. How do I do that? Usually I can do that by either looking at the wiring schematic itself, or I could, it may tell me in the case of, excuse me, if in the case of a resistor, I may be able to look at the resistor itself and tell how many ohms I should be getting from that resistor. Okay, so let's talk about earth grounds. Okay, here is a typical range with an earth ground. Okay, L1, which is line voltage 1, which is your black wire, comes in to the left side there. In the center of that is the neutral. Okay, on the right side is your L2, which is the other side of the voltage on the range. Okay, if you look at the bottom, there is an earth ground that is down on the bottom. So what really is going on right now? I just have a 4-prong outlet. If I have a 3-prong outlet, it does not have an earth ground. My house was built in the 1940s, so I have no earth ground. Okay, I have put an earth ground in place, but I didn't have one except for the ones that I did because my wiring was so old. Okay, so what exactly is an earth ground? By definition, an earth ground is exactly what it says. Okay, it's a ground physically and electrically to the earth. Okay, connect via conductive materials such as a copper, aluminum, or aluminum alloy. Okay, if you're looking for an earth ground, 9 times out of 10, it is made from copper. That is starting to change a whole lot more because of the price of copper. I have a friend that works for the power company, and he showed me the rod. The rod weighs about 30 pounds. Maybe not that long, maybe only 25 pounds, but that's 25 pounds of copper. Okay. And whenever you're measuring copper in ounces, if you look at a penny today, it's not copper anymore because it's not cost effective for the U.S. to print a coin for a penny that was all copper. Now it's not all copper. It has a copper outside, and then another element on the inside. Okay, as mentioned previously, the ground terminal, the earth ground, is physically tied to the chassis, which in turn is connected to the ground wire within the power cord, which finally connects to the earth via a 4-prong outlet. There's no 3-prong. That's what they had put in there, and that's incorrect. There is no 3-prong for an earth ground. Okay, what does an earth ground actually look like? I have a picture of an earth ground. Okay, if you look at this wire, that is an earth ground going from a telephone pole to show that it's down. If you look at the very bottom, at about there's about this much, about 3 inches, 2 inches, that they have a ground that is copper. On this one, it actually you tighten it up, and it marries the earth, the rod that has been driven down into the earth, with the piece of copper that's coming from the power pole. Okay, so the 3rd prong physically connects. Okay, that in your 3-prong plug right here. Okay, that's what I'm talking about whenever I said that it was a 3-prong plug. Okay, that would be the ground on the bottom right there is an earth ground. Mine at my house, I did not have one of these plugs. They were just 2 prongs. Okay, and the way that I used to get, if I wanted to try to do it, was there was that center plug. There's a little wire that I could put a 3-prong to 2-prong plug, and fake an earth ground. Okay, so there is a picture here of one with an earth ground. This is a different range. If you look, you can see that there's an earth ground right here. Actually, I don't know what that is. It goes right here on the bottom. So that's my earth ground. Okay, this is one without an earth ground. I told you that mine at my house, I have a 3-prong plug that looks just exactly like this. It has no earth ground. Okay, which if you buy a brand new range, and some of them now have the electronic boards don't work well without an earth ground. So that's the reason that I had put an earth ground in my house, was just for my range, because it was giving me weird errors. Okay, so my question right now, this technician has decided that he needs to pull this range out because he needs to get to the back. Okay, what's the matter with this picture? If you know me, the first thing that I tell you is to protect yourself. Okay, the second thing that I tell you is to protect the customer's whatever floor, ceiling, walls. You got to protect whatever it is with the customer. Okay, so this technician right here, he has not a single bit of flooring protection. Okay, how do I protect the floor? Here's one that is wood. Okay, that's all 3 of these. There are 3 methods for a range. Okay, I can either use this full sheet to pull the range out so that I don't scratch the customer's floor. There are other ones. The disadvantage to that is keeping that piece so that I don't actually cause, whenever I put it down, I don't cause damage to the customer's floor anyway, because this is ridden around in my truck and it's got thrown all around. I've stepped on it. I've carried it. It looks terrible whenever I pull it out. So that's the first thing that I used to have. Actually, I had a piece of masonite that I used instead of that. I went from that, and then I moved over, and I actually had these little strips. Now I had a technician that I was with the other day, a couple of months ago. His came in a little. These right here, these roll up. Okay, and it's got a little, not a zip tie. It's got Velcro. It's got a couple little Velcro straps that you pull, that you put on them, and then I can put them I had them in a bag, so that I protected them. Okay, his came in a little bag, and they were about 18 inches long. And these actually, I really liked them because the ones that I had, I couldn't adjust on what kind of depth I had. The ones that he had actually looked like a jigsaw puzzle, and they snapped together. And I could put 2 feet, I could put 4 feet, I could pull whatever I needed to pull out. Okay. He said that he got his on Amazon. So I would tell you that if you're going to have them, make sure that you do what's going to be best for you. I love those because I don't have to. The ones that I had, like I said, they were on a strap. They were a Velcro strap, and then whenever I undid them, I only had one length. His, I can adjust the lengths. Okay, I never had the one on the right. I always wanted one of these, but they were not cost effective for me. Whenever I had my own company, those at the time, whenever I had my company, those were about $2,000, and I just couldn't justify $2,000. Now, if I'm going to do a lot of refrigerators and I'm gonna probably gonna want one of these because this is probably the cat's meow when it came to these. Whirlpool was the first one to have these. They came out in the 80s. Okay. It's basically a reverse vacuum. So you plug it in one side, it blows air out into those channels, those two pieces that that actually have the pipe that goes to them. You turn that switch on. Whenever you turn that switch on, it lifts whatever it is that you have underneath it, and then at that time I can move it around like any way that I want to move it. It literally, there's a strap that goes on my shoulder, and I can move that any way that I want to move it. Now that today, those have come down a great deal. Those are about they're about $800 now. So if you're going to do it, I could justify $800. It's called an air sled. Encompass has them in stock. So call Reggie or your Encompass rep, and just go ahead and get yourself one of these, because they're well worth every penny you pay. Okay, I can change things from a 2-man job to a 1-man job if I've got this. Okay, they are a lifesaver. Okay, so if I'm going to check a voltage in a 220 volt circuit, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from L1 to neutral. That's 110. Then I go from L2 to neutral. That should also be 110. Then if I go from L1 to L2, I should read 220 volts. Okay. Here's a perfect example right here of it with the meter in this one is reading 247 volts. Okay. So what happens? Let's say that I'm going from, I'm looking at something. Okay. Here's an example. This is showing his was 123 volts between L1 and the neutral. Okay. A wiring diagram. What exactly is a wiring diagram? You got to know what voltages, what amps, what ohms I'm getting. If I use the theory, the theorem. Voltage equals amps times ohms. Okay, that gives me my volts. Okay, so what is it? It's a wiring diagram. Is a visual representation of the physical connections and the voltage and the physical layout of an electric circuit. Okay. It shows how the electrical wires and components are interacted and can show where the components are connected to in the system. Okay. I'm going to very quickly go back and we're going to exit the full screen. We're going to see, does anybody have any questions? I'm going to give you just a minute. Okay. Doesn't look like there was any questions. We're going to continue on now. So in a range, I have either an electric or a gas. Okay. Um, most of the things in Florida are electric. Most of the things in Georgia, they're about 50-50 with electricity and gas. As you get farther north, they go to a more of a gas. Okay, so how does a gas bake element work? Well, they have an igniter that's on the right side that you can't really see very well. That igniter glows whenever it reaches a certain amperage, which is somewhere between 3.0 and 3.6, depending on the brand that you're on. That glows whenever that reaches the correct amperage. It sends a message back down to the gas valve. The gas valve says, "Okay, I can let the gas flow because it is hot enough to burn it for it to ignite." Okay, so let's talk a little bit about electric. So as you can tell, this unit has been pulled from the where it's at. This element has a hidden bake element. So how do I know it has a hidden bake element? Whenever I'm whenever I'm standing in front of the unit, if I open the door and there is no element sitting there that I can see on the bottom, that's a hidden bake element. There are hidden broil elements. Those are less common. Usually the bake element may be hidden, but the broil element may actually, you may look at it and be able to see it. This is on an electric range. So with a hidden bake element, it's a whole lot more difficult to take care of a unit that has a hidden bake element. One of the things that you need to remember is I need to look at it before I go out there, because I can tell the customer up front that it's going to, I'm going to have to charge a little more because I now have to go and pull the unit out, which I risk scratching the floor. I'm going to have to remove a whole lot of things around this hidden bake element so that I can actually pull the bake element out. So I'm gonna need to take care of all of that. Okay, so what happens is I need to get in and check the bake element, because I can't, at this point, I can't see it unless I go and take the screws out, look at it, and usually with a hidden bake element, I usually don't have the problems that I have if I have an exposed bake element. What happens with an exposed bake element is that as the customer is cooking, if they don't put pans underneath whatever it is that they're cooking, I can have splashovers. Those splashovers a lot of times will get down into the element itself. It will cause the cow rod heater, which is the bake element, to short out. I can usually look at one and tell you if I've got a bad cow rod, if I've got a bad heating element, bake element. Excuse me. With a hidden bake element, I'm gonna have to remove the the piece in front in the front. I can actually take that and pull that out and look at it. I have to remove the racks. Then I have to remove the bake element. But the hidden bake element is a whole lot harder to do. We're going to go through the bake elements, and we're going to go through the infinite switches. Okay. So here's the one that doesn't have a bake element. Whenever I am checking on these, depending on how old the unit is, I may have a problem back here where the connectors are. Whenever these get hot and then cool down and get hot and cool down, over time, I can cause this depending on whenever it was installed and everything else, it this heating and cooling of the two dislike metals may actually cause the wire, may short the wire. So as I'm pulling this out, and I've taken these two screws out, as you see, where the element is, I'm going to have to be very careful whenever I'm pulling it out, because I may end up having to pull the oven out just because the wire behind it may be bad, and it may have come off. Okay, I have had them whenever I was a technician. There wasn't anything the matter with the bake element itself. The guy that had replaced the bake element before, the connection wasn't tight whenever those two slid in, and whenever those two slid in, then it just didn't marry up. Okay, so here's where I was talking about. This is the broiler element. This made it a whole lot easier whenever I took the picture. You can see how it's glowing red. That's whenever it goes and tells the gas valve, okay, go ahead and release the gas. I'm ready to ignite. Whenever the gas comes through, I now get a glow, and then it ignites, and I'm good to go. Okay. So there's basically 5 reasons that an oven won't light. Okay. It may be that the on-off lever on the gas valve itself. A lot of these newer gas valves have an on-off lever. Okay. If the guy that was out before you or the installer, they may have actually moved that lever on and off. If the customer pulls the unit out, which most people don't, but the customer pulls the unit out and then pushes it back in, it's possible that that's on-off lever is gone, they've disturbed it, and that is now the oven won't light. Okay. The other thing is on a gas oven, the igniter. Okay. It could be that my igniter is not pulling the correct amperage, or it could be that the igniter has a lot of times, like with the broil and the bake, like I was talking about, all the drippings in a broiler. Whenever they've got it up and they have it set to broil and they're broiling something, it splashes out because of like cheese and stuff like that. So it could be that my igniter's bad. I could have a bad safety valve, okay? Or it could be a bad infinite switch. Now, the last thing, and it's not on every single oven, okay? On my grandmother's oven, it does not have a thermal fuse. But in my oven at my house, I have a thermal fuse in my oven, and that is because I have self-clean. If I have self-clean, I have to have something to tell it, okay, I've gotten too hot. And what is that? That's the thermal fuse is the problem. Okay. Here's an example of that on-off lever that I was talking about that's on the gas valve itself. All right. So this pushes in and pulls out. I have seen these on-off levers that move up and down, and that's the way that they have on and off. So you need to be careful of that. Okay. And then if I'm talking about here is a broil element. This is an igniter. If you look at the igniter itself, you can see right there that it's bad. If I've got a cow rod heater, which is on the bottom in the bake element, I can also have the exact same thing. Okay. Over time and spillage, that's going to determine what I get. Now, a lot of people use tinfoil on the top of the oven. Do not use tinfoil on the top of the oven. You cause more problems than you fix. If the customer has it, you need to explain to the customer why you don't use tinfoil. The problem with tinfoil is if it gets up and it touches that element, it causes a direct short. That direct short on an element that will actually, that will actually cause it to short the element out, and now I've got to go buy a new element. It's a whole lot easier just to take underneath the pan that you have, whatever you're baking. Let's say it's lasagna, and you put a pan underneath my lasagna to keep it from dripping on top of everything else, and it catches there in that pan instead of using tinfoil. There are sheets out there now that you can use. Once again, those can be not as perform as well. They have to be cut exactly to size, and you just need to make sure that the customer is aware of all of this. Okay, so I'm going to check, like I said, on this one right here, on this particular oven on a GE. I should be drawing somewhere around 3.2 ohms. Once again, this is with the oven unplugged. I cannot check the ohms with it plugged in. My plug, there's a plug in the back that the igniters go to. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug the oven. I'm going to reach down and check my ohms, and I should be drawing somewhere around 3.2. Okay, so the other thing that I can check if I have on a gas oven is I can check the continuity through the valve. I have had the valves go bad and have to replace the valves, and that's the continuity that I can go through. So I am going to check continuity through that valve, because at the very top there are two where the igniter plugs in. That tells the valve that it's okay to open. That's what I'm checking. Okay, with the ohm scale set at the very high end. Okay, I should be reading 3.2 on the GE. Okay, so once again, I'm checking. I pull the leads off the valves, place the terminal on each one of the side, and I should be reading 3.2, right around 3.2. Okay, if the value of the ohms shows a resistance of 0 to up to 0.5 ohms of resistance, the valve is good. Okay, so I'm going to check next. I'm going to check. This is the electric. The bake element, okay? Now I can check the bake element, okay? If I'm going to check the bake element and if I think that the bake element's bad, I'm going to check it, okay? I should, on the ohms scale, I have it set on the highest ohms. I should read between 30 and 100 ohms. If I don't read that, then guess what I've got to do? I've got to replace it, okay? If I don't have that, if you look at this one, you can kind of look at, and that's what I keep telling everybody. You can look at it and you can be very suspicious of whether it's my element or if it's something else in the circuit. If I see one that looks like this, I am going to probably go to the back and pull it out and check it just to be sure that I have the correct ohm readings through it. If I don't have the ohms readings that is correct, I'm going to replace it, okay? If you don't have voltage between L1 and L2 on my range, I'm going to check my thermal fuse. If this thermal fuse on an oven that has on an oven that has a you're going to have to pardon me. I've got right now there's something called golden rods, and I'm highly allergic to them. And now is their blooming season, so I have all of this that I apologize about. Okay, getting back to that, my thermal fuse tells my self clean I've gotten too hot, and it will blow. and 99 times out of 100, it is not resettable anymore. Once it blows, it's blown, and you have to replace it. Okay, I had my aunt that I went over to her house, and her complaint was the oven won't heat anymore. Well, I asked whenever I called her and talked to her after she left me a message, I asked her, I said, when's the last time you cleaned your oven? She goes, oh, well, I cleaned it last week. And I said, when's the last time that you had it where you baked anything in it? And she goes, well, it was right before I cleaned it. And I said, well, I'll bet you that's what the problem is. I got there. Whenever I did that, I went ahead and made sure I got my good meter. I pulled the oven out, checked it. Sure enough, it was a bad thermal fuse. Okay, if I have an oven, okay, not just a range. If I have an oven, could be a single wall, double wall. If it has, those usually have a thermal fuse in them, especially a double oven. I have not seen a double oven that doesn't have a thermal fuse. Okay, here it is. This is a basic diagram of the bake, the broil elements, and the thermal fuse. Okay, so you see where this thermal fuse is. Okay, usually it's on the L1 leg. Okay, usually could be on the L2 leg. You just have to look and find out. Okay, so but the thermal fuse keeps the unit from, once it gets super hot, because in the self-clean cycle, they run between 900 degrees Fahrenheit. Some of the high-end ovens go to about almost 1,200, 1,300 degrees Fahrenheit. So you got to make sure that that is not the problem. So number one, how do I check that thermal fuse? Well, what I'm going to do is, once again, I'm going to unplug it. Whenever I unplug it, I'm going to disconnect the two leads that go to the thermal fuse, and I'm going to do an ohms check on the thermal fuse. The thermal fuse, if I get continuity through it, then my thermal fuse is good. If I don't get continuity through it, then I know that my thermal fuse is bad. Okay, so one of the things that I did was I tried to put, and I apologize about this, okay? There is a thermal fuse here in this circuit. If you look right there, it says you show the fuse right there. That's in between the bake and the broil element. Okay, so that is what it's going to be on a wiring schematic. You can see it right there. Okay. All right. Going to take another quick stop just to see if you have any questions. I'm going to get a sip of coffee while I wait for somebody to do that. I don't see anybody, so we're going to keep on going. Okay. Today, the gas oven. Here's your excuse me. Here's your wiring schematic for a gas oven. Okay, not super different than an electric oven. It is a little bit simpler in that you don't have quite as many boards as there are on an electric oven. Okay, I still have the same number of infinite switches that has power going through them, and it's just I don't have quite as many boards on a gas oven as I do an electric oven. Okay. So, does anybody have any questions? Okay, I don't see any questions. We're going to talk about a little bit about Encompass They asked me to wait to the very end to do this, so I went ahead and I put it in at the end here for Encompass Parts. They are the leading provider of original replacement parts and after sale units. Okay, number one, they don't sell gem line, and they don't sell cheap stuff that is not OEM authorized. Okay. One of the things that they have is they have an app. Like I have always said, I love this app. If I was a technician and I still was out running around, trust me, I would be using this app. Okay. It does so many different things. Okay. Number one, if something happens and I set things up correctly, I can have this order whenever I'm getting low in my stock on my that I have. I can set it up to automatically order. Okay. If I don't want to do that, I don't have to do that, but it will let me know that, hey, you're down to 1 or 2 or 10. It will tell me, you set the parameters of this, and it will tell me exactly how many I have in stock. Okay. That's the point of this whole of the Easy Stock app is to be your parts manager. Okay. Whenever I was running my own business, I really needed a parts manager, and I've got one with Easy Stock. Okay. My Easy Stock, I always had a couple of spare parts, fast moving parts, that I know that I may need. So it will actually tell me, hey, you don't have that part on your truck, but you've got it and I had a little space in my garage. Okay. It would tell me, hey, you've got it in your garage, but you don't have it on your truck. Well, I would check that every day, and I would double check on parts that I think that I might need. And I would go and grab those, because I can always take parts that I don't know if I'm going to need, but I can put them in my truck, and then I've got them, and I know for a fact that if I need them, I've got them, and then I can move them from my warehouse to my truck. And then if something happens and I don't need those parts, or maybe I load 4 different parts in just to be sure that I have them, and then I don't need 3 out of the 4, I can now transfer that back to my warehouse, and I know that I've got clean parts. Okay. One of the other things that it can do, if I at the end it was me and one other technician that made up the company. Okay. So I divided things going, above one line was me, below one line was him. Well, a lot of times I may not have, for some reason I forgot, I thought that I had it, but I didn't. Once again, I don't have Easy Stock. So I would call him and go, hey, Jim buddy, hey, have you got this part on your truck? And then it would make him go out. He would have to go out and look, or he would do the same thing and call me. Hey, have you got this part on your truck? Well, I'd have to stop what I was doing. I would go out to the truck, find out if I had that part. If I didn't have that part, then I would, I had to call him back and, hey, no, I don't have this part. So Easy Stock takes care of all of that. Okay. If I have 2 trucks, if I have 10 trucks, if I have 50 trucks, okay, I know what each truck has in stock. Not only do I have all of that information, I actually, if I have, let's say that I don't have, I didn't find the need to go ahead and buy a torch, a refrigerant kit, and all the gauges and everything else. I didn't feel the need that I needed to have that for every truck. So I had one set. So we would do one of two things. The plan was it would stay at the office unless I had to have it. Okay. So the problem is whenever I get out to a customer's house, the last thing I want to do is leave the customer down without a refrigerator. So now I will have to drive all the way to wherever it is to get that part and pick it up. But so it made it easy with Easy Stock. It would tell me exactly where the part was. Okay. Last scenario. Okay. I go and Encompass doesn't have the part in stock for some reason. Well, I will go ahead and I go to one of the other parts distributors and say, hey, I need this part. They've got it in stock. So what I can do is I can now scan the barcode and put it in stock with my Easy Stock app and set the quantity. And then if something happens and I run out of that, it can either pre-order it or it will let me know that, hey, you're running low on this part. And it will go ahead and order it for me. Okay. One of the other things that I can do is with Easy Stock, I can run my top 50 parts. Okay. My top 50 parts tells me this is what I need to have on my truck. Maybe it's 30 parts. You determine that. But it will actually print you a list of what my top whatever ones you pick parts are. Okay. I used to whenever I ran an office that I did later on, this would have been great because the one thing that I always wanted to make sure of was, hey, if I'm running route number 1, what parts do I need to have on the truck? Okay, so it could tell me on route number 1 what his top moving parts are. Okay, and if he doesn't have those, he's not getting any first time completes. That affects his business and that affects my business. So you've got to make sure that you are taking care of your customer, number 1. Number 2, your technician has got to be taken care of. And number 3, the company's got to be taken care of. I need a win-win-win. Okay. So I need to constantly be if like whenever it was just whenever I was the manager, that's all that I did was manage. So I had time to go and check all my parts so that I made sure that we had the right parts on the truck. Okay. So if you have any questions about the Easy Stock app, you can go right here to your YouTube. You can either type in Encompass Easy Stock app and it will pull up. I think there's 3 videos. I know there's 2, but I think there's a third that's been added. And it actually will walk you through the Easy Stock app. Okay. That is a great thing to look. The only thing that you've got to have is you've got to have an Encompass account. Okay. I've got to go check and make sure that mine is still open because I'm not ordering parts anymore. The one thing is if you don't use it a lot, you got to go make sure that your account is open because it will not let you use the Easy Stock app unless your account is open. Okay. Well, I think that has brought us to the end of our show today. I really appreciate everybody's attention and thank you very much. I am going to tell you, I apologize. I can see that right here is causing a reflection that's showing up on the board. It's because of the bright sunshine. Thank goodness we've got it. We're going to, according to the weather report that I saw come Friday or Saturday, they're going to have another storm. So everybody have a wonderful day. Everybody be safe out there. Thank you very much for everything that you do. Thank you for understanding the importance of having a class that you can learn from. Thank you so much. If something happens and you want to get something on the board, we're pretty much booked out through the end of the year. But if I get enough people that ask me for a class, I may be able to get with marketing and get another class put in like in late November, early December. So just know that that's out there. That's another thing that you can do. Have a wonderful day. If you want to go, you can go and check this month and next month on the Encompass University app. That will tell you exactly what's coming. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. And you know what? We will see you next week. Thank you.